It's my pleasure to introduce Richard Hansen, who is a managing member at Bolt Engineering in South Africa. And Richard has extensive experience of the manufacturing industry, and I know he will be sharing some really interesting examples of how his team and his business are working to innovate the manufacturing process. So, Richard, thank you for being with us this morning, and we're really pleased that we have the opportunity to welcome you as our first guest speaker of the day. Without any further ado, I will hand over the presentation to you, and thanks again for being here.
Great, Thomas. Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for the warm welcome. So yeah, as Thomas mentioned there, I am, my name is Richard Hansen. I own a business in Durban, South Africa called Bolt Engineering. And we are a manufacturing company. And what can I say? We love Fusion 360. So, you know, we have a lot of different sort of approaches to business. And we have a lot of sort of experience with the evolution of Fusion 360 and sort of the way that the market is heading at the moment. So just a quick background on me. We've been running for about 12 years now, and we've been using Fusion for a number of years. We've come over from other software, and Fusion has just continually sort of grown and sort of helped us along in our business. So from an industry perspective, we are definitely using all the benefits and you know the sort of cutting edge sort of additions that Fusion is bringing to the table and making the most of that. So I'd like to, yeah, guys, please would you feel free to post questions and comments in the feed there. I would like to be able to have a bit of a Q&A session at the end of this, so that we can just cover a couple of questions and topics that you'd like to discuss. But just quickly, I'd like to run through. Here we go. This simple example here. So I've got a little presentation that I'm going to share shortly, but recently we've had a customer that came to us with a problem, and normally this is how we start or our interactions with a new customer, is that they have a problem that needs to be solved. So the way that we start all of this is they have the problem, and then they'll consult us to come in with a solution. So the first sort of steps of this is for us to go and have a look at the problem, which in this case was they were using a wiring loom for their machinery, and it was very complicated, and there were wires all over the place. So we decided to see how we could simplify this. And the general sort of practice is that we'll go through a number of ideas where we'll start with a sketch, which we can do very easily in Fusion, just a simple 2D sketch. Yeah, oh, sorry, I was looking at some of the questions on the feed there. And you know, we'll start off like that with some basic interaction with the customer, trying to figure out exactly what their needs are. So I'm just going to share this quickly. This customer basically said to us that all of their wires are getting mixed up. So we started on Fusion with a very basic 2D drawing. It was just a hook to keep their wires out of the way. After that, we 3D printed a sample, and we submitted the sample to the customer, and this already was a great improvement. We evaluated sort of how the hook was functioning. That basically, from concept to the first 3D printed part took us about 2 days, which is almost unheard of in sort of normal industry practices, to have such a quick turnaround time. And that's where we're finding in the market that, you know, we have a real edge with Fusion 360, because basically we are able to go from manufacture or from concept to prototype manufacture within a day or two, which is almost unheard of in sort of a lot of the old school guys are still battle to sort of comprehend this. So with us having been there within a day, we were able to come back with a a physical prototype that we had 3D manufactured. So I know that later on in the day, we're going to be looking at additive manufacturing. And I personally in the industry believe that it's going to be the way that we're going to be headed in a big way. And already it has changed the way we do things. So, you know, this technology is coming in at a low cost. It's relatively accessible to a lot of people across all sorts of industries and universities. And from my point of view, with this prototype is that we can see entrepreneurs coming into the market with an idea that they can draw up quickly, prototype quickly, and present to a customer with very short lead times. So, for example, this particular clip traditionally would have had to have gone through a whole design phase. It would have had to have been approved by draftsmen and eventually come to a stage where we would possibly machine one out of steel or out of a plastic. And it wouldn't be a functional, or it wouldn't be a properly functional prototype. And now what we're finding is that we can get into Fusion 360, we can simulate a component, and already with just a visual aid, we can have a look and see the way that we're going to modify something. We can see its benefits, we can see its downfalls, and from just the visual aid, we can modify things. And our favorite thing is to go home in the evenings and leave a 3D printer running, and the next morning we come in and we have a prototype part. So because this particular part was plastic injection molded, again, traditionally, it would have been a massive process to make a mold and get a component, and then you still wouldn't be 100% sure whether this component was going to be suitable for the application. So we would go to the customer it actually became a daily basis, and we would submit a printed sample and say, how does this thing work, guys? And they would say, we need to change this, we need to modify this, we need to do that. And in Fusion, we were able to modify those small geometry changes. Overnight, we would reprint another prototype and resubmit to the customer the following day. And this has just changed the way that we do things. And it's winning us a lot of business because of the way that we're able to rapid prototype. So between the design software and the newer technologies available, we are seriously hitting the market with some great ideas and fantastic turnaround times, which is what our customers require, especially the guys in the automotive industry. So we're getting great results out of that model. Further on from that, we then went to the customer and said, right, we've got a product that's now working. What are the next design challenges? And we managed to eliminate another 2 processes from their sort of installation phase, just by changing the way that we've done our product. And that just came down to clever design, you know. And in actual fact, we sent a design to one of their managers, and his exact words to me were, why haven't we thought of this already? We managed to reduce another 2 processes in their line just by the way that we had done our design. We 3D printed one. The following day, they had it in on trial, and the customer was happy. So the next stage after that was to go to injection molding. And from having the printed sample, you know, it's so easy to put that sample in the customer's hands, and he can understand exactly what he's going to be getting at the end of the day. So in Fusion, we took that sample, we put it in, we added in our shrinkages for our plastic injection mold, and we CNC machined the injection mold and put it into production over here. So we've now made, I think, over 70,000 of these little hooks that started off with a design or a 2D sketch in Fusion, and then a number of 3D printed parts, which we just export straight out of Fusion into we use the Flash Forge printers. So we just go to Fusion, export mesh, and off we go. We've been making prototypes overnight while we sleep. And in the morning we come back, we evaluate, we submit to the customer, and we're getting great results like that. So it's between the software available and the newer technologies, we're finding ways to win new business. And also that customer has got to a stage now where their infrastructure can't keep up with the device that we've designed for them. So we're kind of on the front foot, and it's been a great example of how cutting edge software and using modern techniques has provided a solution for a customer, and it's also generated business for us. So I'd like to encourage other engineers and guys in the industry that have these ideas and have the ability to use these tools, just to possibly change the way that they think about prototyping and getting parts into industry. These 3D printed parts that we're making now are functional, and in Fusion, it's so simple to just change a thickness or a radius or some kind of tooling hole or a reference or the logos, and we were just making these small changes, which in a normal setup where you have like an injection mold, machining steel is a very big deal, and making changes at that stage is very costly and often not possible. So we had ironed out all of those issues, just by getting some of those prototypes smashed out the way. So I'd like to encourage guys to use that functionality in Fusion. Have a look at your design, evaluate it, share it with the customer, put the part in their hands, put the part in their factory, and what a fantastic way to manufacture. So that's one of our big pluses with Fusion at the moment, is also having the team aspect of it. Our design guys get to design inside Fusion, and then that file, because we're part of the team, is all network based. It goes down to the machine shop, and we go and we chat to the guys that are doing the machining and the tool steel. So they'll come back to us and ask us to possibly change a radius or change something so that it becomes easier for us to manufacture from a tooling point of view. And with everybody being in the team, all of the ideas are kept online, and all of the changes are made digitally. So we're able to keep all that history inside the tree of Fusion, and all those tool paths, we directly export the tool path straight out of Fusion into our CAM software, into our machinery. It's all kept inside Fusion. Our 2D drawings afterwards, where we come back for verification, we can send measurement reports and things like that to the customer. It's a fantastic piece of software. So I think that the big thing is, from us in the industry, we're trying to get our head around all of the new technology that's available. The other one that we've started doing is laser etching. I mean, we're now putting the customer's details and part numbers on these injection molded parts. So we'll pull a DXF from Fusion, stick it on the part, and laser etch onto the actual components. So I think that the times are exciting, and they're changing. And if you sort of are willing to work with the software and the machinery available, we're going to find areas into the industry that we're going to be able to keep our customers really happy and be ahead of all the competitors. So that's my encouragement to everybody, is to think outside the box and use all the software that's available. Also, when you see these design changes or these software updates come through in Fusion, generally that's because there's a change in the industry, or we need to add something in, or it's just a general update. But keep your eyes on those, because some of those become quite interesting. So from an industry perspective, we're finding that we're on the cutting edge with the software that we're using. We're very happy with Fusion 360. We've got I think there's about 7 seats in our organization. Everybody shares information on the team, and it's been a fantastic tool for our organization. So yeah, I think that's that's basically where I wanted to go with my presentation today. I'd like to open the floor to a few questions.
Well, thank you, Richard, for providing this great overview. I think it's always good to have insight from someone who's actually right in the middle of producing and creating things. That makes it really tangible. I saw that there was I don't know if it was a question, but maybe a positive encouragement. But one of our participants put in the chat here that it would be interesting to hear whether you have plans for other markets, like Ethiopia. Ethiopia is being mentioned as an example. So is your would you have any insights to share, especially when it comes to other markets in Africa? Is your business active in other countries? Do you feel that your approach would lend itself well, I guess, with what you outline to other markets as well?
Yeah, that's the fantastic thing about this the software being so interactive. And I think we all learned a big lesson through COVID that we are able to function on a digital platform. So from my side, what we're finding is that we're picking up customers internationally and across Africa that traditionally we wouldn't have met or come across because we weren't able to meet them physically. So we've actually got a case study with a guy who's I'm actually not exactly sure where he is, but he's somewhere on the border of Botswana and Zimbabwe, and we manufacture parts for him and send them up. And whenever we do a design change, we have the same system where we do a design, we send him a 3D print file for his particular 3D printer, and he plugs the file in. He doesn't have a clue how the thing works, but he plugs the file in, and he's able to print himself a prototype in the middle of nowhere and test it out and evaluate and give us feedback. So I think that if we think of different ways of doing business, we actually sent him that printer because he can do those prototypes and those testing for us, rather than having to courier parts backwards and forwards. And I think if we use those principles, we can get business running across Africa pretty seamlessly. I mean, sort of internationally, you don't have to look too hard to find somebody with a 3D printer. And if you have an engineering problem that you need a solution to, somebody like ourselves can consult, design, or anybody with Fusion for that matter can design a prototype, send it for printing, and get it tested, get it evaluated.
Perfect. No, that's very encouraging, and I think it links into one of the overall theme with this digital skills camp is, of course, skills and what we all need to do as participants in the industry to also as individuals stay ahead of the game and you have the right skills. You've talked a lot in your presentation here about the ease of working with these tools and how quickly it can be. So as an employer, would you mind sharing a little bit about how is it easy for your team to adapt to this? Did you have to do specific training, or are you confident that you have the flow of people who can actually manage these workflows, or do you see any issues in that space just from your perspective as an employer in industry? I think that could add also some nice input to some of the attendees here.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. When we are looking at prospective employees now, I think I was mentioning in one of our previous meetings, we're looking for guys that are already making use of this technology. So inside our team, a lot of the guys that have come here have either been on different packages or have been self-taught in Fusion. So we currently have a seat which is just standalone in the factory for anybody that's willing to learn and has some time to go and we call it play on the software, because basically we're trying to develop skills within our own company, and already we've seen, just by sharing the information throughout the team, the fusion examples and some of the examples like you can download online have a legacy of how things have been manufactured. So you can go and have a look and see, okay, this guy started off with a sketch and then he extruded and then he went through this whole design process. And from teaching the guys how to go back and dissect how a design has been sort of brought to life. The guys have learned techniques by themselves, and a lot of us are, I would say, pretty much self-taught by investing time into the software. So I think that especially with Fusion, the more time you spend in it and the different examples you sort of dissect and you go back and have a look at how techniques have been done, the more you'll pick up. So in our factory now, we've got 3 guys which are probably on the same level as me, or if not better, and we are constantly sort of spurring each other on to find the next best part of Fusion, or the next trick or shortcut. And so as an employer, we're looking for guys that are willing to learn, willing to take that initiative to play around in the software. And that's the nice part about this digital prototyping, is that we can eventually have a look. Sometimes we'll even pose a question to 2 guys and say, right, let's see what you come up with, and sometimes the ideas are very similar and sometimes they're quite different. But we're finding that just having access to the software and having time to be able to work in it is developing people in some areas more than we realized. And just one more example of that is one of our guys in the fabrication section, turns out that he's brilliant at design. So we've just given him the same access to the software that everybody else has got. And it looks like he'll be changing careers from a manufacturing point of view to a design, to become a designer, because that's one of his strengths. And we've been able to pick that up through using Fusion.
That's amazing. Thank you. That's also providing a lot of positive prospects, I think, for everyone listening. So, no, but great. I see that we're slowly running up against time here, but does anyone have any other questions for Richard? I see there was one question coming in here, again from Ethiopia, about students relating, the opportunity for students related to training to use the software. So I guess if we build on what, so I think we got hopefully a really good perspective from Richard about the the opportunities that are out there for students who are coming into industry. We will be sharing some very specific information this afternoon about what type of training initiatives, material, the software itself are available specifically for students. So there's a number of initiatives that Autodesk runs specifically for Fusion 360 that might also relate to this particular question. So if I may come back to that part a bit later on the agenda, but I think what Richard shared in terms of that there are really truly exciting perspectives here, and that's really sets a good perspective for us all.
Yeah. Thank you, Thomas.
So with that said, I don't see any other questions at this point, but I really wanted to say thank you to you for sharing your insight. I think that has been a really great way of kicking off the event. I saw that our events team also shared your LinkedIn profile, and I assume that you're okay if people want to connect with you offline and continue the conversation.
Yeah, that'd be great. And just in closing, Thomas, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to bring across. It's just a message of encouragement. The world has changed in terms of prototyping and software, and I believe Fusion is on the forefront of it. And yeah, there's new ways to win business. So if you have good design and good prototyping, you're well on your way to finding new opportunities.